This is TWiT.
How do you consume WWDC? Do you watch a lot of the tracks?
So I'll watch like with the remote stuff. Like there's no point for a developer like me really to do the travel over for the current kind of format of the conference, because you're going to end up spending like $10,000 to sit in Apple Park and watch a video that I could also watch.
Yes, that's a good point. Yes.
And there is, it's more now than it was. Like, I think as the years go past, I think they're adding more and more like in-person stuff that is actually, I think, useful. And maybe next year is the time where I would actually go over. But so what I've done for the last couple of years is, I'll sit and I'll watch the keynote and the State of the Union live, and sort of previously I would tweet out my unfiltered thoughts, and now I just post them to Mastodon. It's much the same. And I will then like get the sort of high level view of everything. And then I'll see what has changed, what I think is going to impact me. Like, it's always good when you can come out of a keynote and think, I actually don't need to do anything. That is the best feeling in the entire world, of like, if I do nothing, everything will still work. And it's cool, because in that situation, it's like, oh, I could actually spend some time working on features and things for the users rather than just catching up with what Apple wants this year. But I mean, so you see what the big stuff is, and then it's a case of like they release a bunch of the sessions day by day. I mean, everything is recorded probably weeks beforehand now, which I think is good, because it gives, some of the people who are presenting who would, if I had to do it, certainly I would freak out standing in front of like 1,000 to 5,000 people having to give a very technical talk live with code which could break at a moment's notice. And that now they can have a lot of people on who are doing their things and recording their stuff. And I will sit and I will watch, just what interests me.
I'm curious as to, I've watched probably 20 or 30 other ones from this, and usually that's about the range that I watch from WWDC. And
how many are there total? Is that like a third of the total? Or?
So many.
Yeah,
no, there's a lot.
A lot. Okay. 30 is a lot. Sounds like a lot to me, because they're each an hour long. That's a lot of hours to put in.
Yeah, most of them are, there's a lot are half an hour, I would say these days, because they make them just basically the length they need to, rather than, you have to fill a particular slot in a conference.
Yeah, I think that there's about 100 of them, I think, somewhere in that ballpark, like 90 to 110 typically. There's typically 6 a day. There used to be 4 rooms that did them. So 4 rooms that did 6 a day. And they would have to, to your point, most of them the target was, I think, to last like 40 minutes or 45 minutes long. And a lot of times it felt like things were getting stretched out because they don't take Q&A. So it wasn't, you weren't getting any benefit from it. I have to say that I find them much more pleasurable to watch now than when they were live. The audio is much better. The imagery is much better, which is much easier to watch them, especially at speed, except in the WWDC app, which doesn't have I don't know, do you watch them at 1x or do you watch them faster than they were?
I watch at 1x. If I watched anything at higher speed, my brain would explode. It's just, I
go into absorption mode. So the problem with the Apple TV app is that it's a 1.5 or 2. You can always tell that someone doesn't actually watch things fast when they skip 1.75, because 1.75 is the right number for most things. And so I'm always like on the T-top of those, but I just find them to be, I felt like it's a huge jump forward as far as, I'm curious.
I mean, the other thing that they do in them is that they have the transcripts there immediately, which is very helpful, because like I can, before I even watch a session, I can just have a quick scan through the transcript and see if it is talking about the kind of thing that I'm interested in. Sometimes it's not obvious, particularly from the title, what the level of technical complexity is going to be. So yeah, I mean, I think the developer app's pretty good. As I say, I watch all the stuff at 1x anyway. But I can't watch all of it because there's so much, and if I do try and watch all of it, I will remember none of it.
Well, and you want to watch the stuff that's germane to your program. Yeah, I understand that.
And some of it is also you want to watch the stuff that's like new and exciting. So like all the Vision Pro stuff, that's kind of like, well, this is, how are they going to do this? Because you get the broad strokes in the other things, but then you get in like, how is this implemented? What can I do? What can't I do? And yeah, so I've watched a lot of Vision Pro stuff, which is not like, we can't even order SDKs at this point. So, I have front loaded my brain with all the information that is completely useless at this point.
And may well change. I mean, I really get the feeling, I likened it on one of our shows to a concept car that you might see at an auto show. I get the feeling that when it does come out, it may be a somewhat different product. In fact, I'm betting that the scary eyes in the front will be gone. I don't think.
I think they're 100% staying. I think that's a core thing of their design, because it's like they are nobody else has ever done it, so this thing stands out
for good reason.
Even if it stands out in a way that I don't like.
Yeah.
But I think like I get what they're trying to do. That they're trying to kind of make it less cutting you off from the world, and that makes sense.
But you are cut off, and putting an uncanny valley pair of eyes on the front does not make you less cut off. I'm sorry, it just makes people run away in the other direction, to be honest.
I will say I haven't tried it, so like
neither has, by the way, any Apple executive. I think it's telling that nobody wore them, which means they're not ready, right? That they're all simulated in the videos.
No, I mean, I think like I suspect the stuff is like 3/4 there, and I think that the foundations are probably working pretty well. I mean, from the sounds of the people I know who have got demos, like the technology, like the hardware certainly was impressive.
Yeah.
Some of the software. Like I know some people that when they had their head scanned for the FaceTime thing, they didn't get a particularly pleasant looking avatar out of that. And but I could see that stuff improving. It's like, so when the iPad came out, or before the iPad came out, when it was announced and we got developer kits for it, we could write apps in the simulator, and same for the watch and same for other things. Like we could write the apps, and we could see them on a screen and we could interact with them, but it didn't give you the sense of what it would be like to actually use the thing, which affects how you build your apps. So there is a sort of, once you're actually using it, there's a feedback process of, I'm playing with it. Oh, this makes sense to do it this way, or this is, this thing is too far away from where your fingers would be, or this button is too small, or something. And I think there's going to be a process for this as well. It's like once we actually get to use them and see what it's like to use them. And this is such a shift in terms of like thinking and design. I mean, in some ways it's not, because like the apps they're showing off are kind of like mostly 2D windows that you're moving around with 3D content. But until I have one of those things on my face and I am actively running my code on it, I'm hesitant to pass judgment on it, because I just don't know what it's like. And I have skepticism. I still don't know what it's for. Like I get that this is like technologically possibly the most sophisticated piece of consumer electronics ever made, shall we say. I still don't get what it's for. But I haven't tried it. So that's the thing. I can't throw stones at it.
Yeah. Specifically about the magic eyeballs, I'm not sure that could become the touch bar of the Vision Pro. That could be the thing that, okay, we really thought we had something. It turns out we didn't have anything here. We're going to start to give you back all the buttons that you're complaining that you didn't have.
Well, and if they're going to make a less expensive version, those screens are one way to cut a couple $100.
Yeah, but not only that, but that's a display right at the very, very front of the device, on a device that could be made lighter anyway, and you don't want weight at the front anyway. Right. Another problem is that this is I've been reading a lot more about like what like what designers of night vision goggles have been learning about just the mechanics of how to design something that you wear on your face and people are going to be looking around through the world at. And another complaint that's coming through about this design is that because you have this screen that has to be has to cover the entire front plate, you can't have cameras like right where your pupils would be, and so they're going to be lowered like another like inch or so from where you're actually looking, which it remains to be seen how confusing that's going to be. There's a paper that I read about, again, people who are designing these things for night vision, saying that even moving these down a little bit causes a bit of confusion because the brain it creates a whole bunch of problems where the brain adapts, and then when you take the goggles off, your brain now has to deal with the fact that there's this entirely new way of looking at the world. So there are a lot of small things about it. It just and a lot of these things are going to be maybe worth the expense, so to speak, because of the technology. But it really changed my mind about, again, what I have to call derisively the magic eyeball effect. That has to really now be very, very important. It has to be crucial. It has to be a signature thing that says, oh my God, Apple has figured something out here that no one else has figured out. And everybody has to start stealing this idea. It turns out to be such a great idea to have this screen facing outward to make it worth like the extra weight and the extra changes that it makes to the balance. And in my eye, I don't think it just looks. Yeah. I think there's a reason why they didn't demo it to anybody at all under any circumstances during WWDC.
And I'm assuming that the eyes and that the like section of face that they're displaying is the same CG face that they're capturing for FaceTime.
I think everybody thinks that it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think that there is going to be like that slight extra uncanny valley to that view, because if it is that, but still I haven't seen it. So I like, this could be like when I see it in person that I will go, right, I get it. This makes sense. Yeah. So that I'm hesitant, but curious enough that I will probably drop $3,500 to see how it works.
Well, another data point from Scooter X and our IRC, the Apple Vision Pro video is now the most viewed Apple video on YouTube with 50 million views in the first week. So there's certainly interest in it. People want to see it.
And I mean, like, this is, I think, probably the most kind of futuristic thing they've done for a long time. I mean, like the iPhone, when we all got the iPhone, we were like, this is great. It has a great user interface. This entirely makes sense. You know, they've done like amazing things, but it's a phone. You know, we understand this. It's a touch screen. We've kind of seen those before, not as good as this. This thing is like, oh, and here's a spaceship. And we're
right.
Like,
They've boldly gone.
I've never flown a spaceship before. I don't know what it's like.
Right. Yeah, we don't know. That's right. And I think Apple deserves, and a lot of people give it a lot of credit for what Apple's done in the past. But this is not like anything Apple's done in the past. Well, and it is a bit of a reach for them.
I think the pricing also helps scare off a lot of folks that aren't sure. So you're going to end up with a lot of people that are there testing it. I think that it is. I think that they'll probably keep the eyes in some form. They're going to have to keep on developing them. I think that they're part of the interface to tell you that someone's looking at you.
Right.
When they
I understand why they're there.
They tell you why they're not there.
But I think it's also the thing that's people are going to fixate on as being the creepiest part of it. And I think that's something Apple's got to fight against. This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. 94% of CIOs and CISOs agree that attracting and retaining talent is increasingly critical to their roles. ACI Learning empowers your team to thrive while investing in the security of your business. Fill out the form at go.acilearning.com/twit for information on a free 2-week trial for your team.